Hey everybody, this is Getting to Know Marriage. I'm Tika.
And I'm Gregory.
And we talk with different couples on our shows about different topics, different things. And today we're here with some friends of ours, Jay and Shafay Sims. Today we're going to be talking about being married without children. A lot of times people talk about married with children, but you don't hear a lot of people talking about marriage without children. So that's what we wanted to touch on today. You guys want to tell us a little bit about yourselves?
I'm Jay, and
I'm Shafay.
And as we were already introduced with Sims, invested in all many different walks of life. We've been involved with ministry. We're involved in the healing arts community as well as culinary community, and just all around, hopefully nice people.
How long have you guys been married?
Long time.
9 years.
9 years.
Wow. And how long were you together?
We've been together for 12.
Okay. So what was that thing that happened that made you both know? I know it's going to be different answers, but that made you both know, like, oh, this is it. This is my forever.
Well, for me, it started with a dream. I had a dream about Jay. That night prior to, I was just wanting to be done with all the foolishness and, really want to settle into a relationship. And so I asked God to show me my husband. And he showed me Jay's face, and he showed me a library on the corner of what I know now as Eastway and Central. And I took it from there. I was always we always had conversations here and there. I had a friend that would always say, Jay asked about me, and I would, in the back of my mind, oh, okay, he was really cool when we were in school because we went to A&T together.
Yeah, keep pride.
And we always had great conversation, and it was just like we could always flow in conversation, as y'all know, because we've had many good conversations. So that's where it started for me. And the rest is history.
Yeah.
I just got a man that keeps growing and growing to this beautiful person.
And how did you know, Jay? What was it that happened that you was like, oh, this is it?
I would say I first recognized her, like we met when we were in school, and I just recognized that there was something unique about her then, and I wanted to know about it, and she wasn't trying to let me know back then. But I always just kind of stayed in touch and kept that signal out there, and just, seeing her again, being around her, I would say the main thing was our friendship. More than anything else, we developed a friendship that I valued before the intimacy, before the relationship, all that. Before anything, we were friends.
Mm-hmm.
So knowing how to connect on that level, meant the most to me.
Question of the day. Are you guys still friends?
Absolutely.
That's important, guys.
It is.
Friends. You want to ask a question?
When you say you had a dream and God showed you Jay, did you already know him? Okay, because I was going to say what that face looked like if you didn't know him.
Oh, yes, I know him. And, I never considered him for, like, a serious relationship.
Gotcha.
Because he was my homie.
So, like we said, so the topic of discussion today is married without children. Start. Where do we start? What is that like? Is that I know for us we have children, and there are those days where you're like, oh, we have children. And there are those days like, oh, we have children. So what is that like?
Well, first off, we don't know that other side as far as what is knowing the difference between having kids
Sure.
and not having kids. We just ain't had kids, so we don't know what the flip side other than what we see, but we can't possibly really fully know what that other side is like, but we know what we have the opportunity to do that others don't.
Right. Right, and that's the part we want to talk about. What's that look like?
Well, I will say this, that it's not purposeful.
Okay.
We don't have children. Now, of course, we want them. We've wanted them. I think we've gotten to a place where we're very comfortable in our lives, and we find things to do to just enjoy life.
Sure.
Without them, in the sense of having to not worry about getting up for school and preparing meals or doing homework or anything that makes you lose that sleep. We so much enjoy, but we just do whatever we want. I can't really put it in any, flowery words or anything like that. We can do whatever we want. We don't have to be concerned about, okay, if we take this trip, who's going to watch Junior? You know, who's going to make sure that Junior is okay? Or do we have enough to take Junior with us?
Right.
Whatever the case may be. And we don't have to be concerned about that weekly bill of care, which I understand is outlandish. Like
sure.
A car note weekly.
Absolutely.
So those are some of the, leisure things that we have.
Sure.
Access to.
Yeah, I mean, we have all of those options, and basically, and it's not even so much that we do everything that we want to do. I mean, we're still human beings.
Sure.
But we have the freedom and ability to do that, whereas, and also it's something that we have to find for ourselves, and that people that have kids have a different level of focus. They have a level of focus and attention because they can pinpoint, okay, I gotta do this for my kids, because if I don't do this for my kids will be like this. So it's like they have a visible investment for that future. Whereas for us, it's more so like you gotta pull that thing up from inside of you to find that level of fulfillment. And I think that's something that we have the ability on the outside to be able to see people that have kids that they do have, because it's like, dang, they really got that drive and that hustle. And it's the gift and the curses of both sides of things that we acknowledge. Some days, like, man, the world's really bad today. I'm glad I ain't got no kids.
Mines aren't missing, unfortunately.
Like,
but
I ain't gotta worry about sex trafficking, and it sounds crazy, but it's like you have those moments where you like, man, I don't even want to bring a kid into this.
Sure.
So, you hear about parents that wake up every day worrying about how their child is going to be, worrying about them having to face the police, and that's a black issue. And these are things that we don't have to stress about, and we also have the time and attention and energy to be able to invest that so that they don't have to.
Sure.
So it's many faceted things that we get to have, because we got plenty of godchildren, nieces and nephews, friends, kids.
Sure.
Kids we just notice because they're in the neighborhood. There's plenty of people that we get to invest that time and energy into, and still enjoy the benefit of being like, you want to go to Tennessee?
That's awesome.
Let's go to Tennessee.
Now.
All right.
Just get your purse. Let's go. Right? That is awesome. That is awesome. And we don't, like I said, we both have children, but we don't have any together. And marrying, later in life, we kind of now have that ability to just be like you said, they're going to Tennessee, we're going to. I don't know what to tell y'all, But one of the things that I wanted to ask about, I know a lot of times, like I started off, a lot of times people talk about, couples that don't have children, and you mentioned that it's not purposeful, and that is a desire. And so many times it's so easy to have that conversation of, but one of the things that I'm really big on is pointing out the optimistic side of it, and helping people to understand who are in your situation or who have been in your situation that don't have children. Does that define a marriage? What is that? Does that define a marriage?
There was a point where it felt like it did, because interestingly enough, it switched off early in the marriage. It was Shafay's belief that she couldn't have kids, and I used to keep her encouraged and like, man, don't worry about that.
Sure.
Then it got to the point where we weren't having them. She got checked out, and they were like, nah, you good. And so then I was like, okay, well, let me go get checked out.
Sure.
And then they were like, well, we don't know if you can. So at that point, it was kind of like, dang, all right, now it's on me. Like, what's going on? Is it back and forth? And at that point, for me, there was a negotiation process, because she heard that when she was young. For me, hearing that after trying for such a period of time, it was kind of like, well, dang, what am I good for now?
Sure.
So you go through that phase of life of feeling that, but then you realize I'm still here. So in being that, it's like, all right, there's greater purpose in life. If this never happens, I'm still here. I still have impact. I still have things that I'm doing. So it's like, you have to allow yourself to heal through that, and then see that there's so many more opportunities. There's dreams, businesses, sorts of things that you can do and leave a legacy that benefits the world in the same way as I believe every parent has to do when they have a child. They just want to create a good person.
Sure.
And leave a good imprint on that area of the world. So it's a wider spectrum of doing it, and that was kind of the negotiation of feeling that value within myself again, because I imagine that does happen. A lot of people get depressed. We've seen a lot of depression in other people when it's not happening, and we haven't had that. There's blessings in that too, that you don't want to go through certain things, like the process of losing a child. We've been friends with people that wanted them badly as us, got pregnant, lost it, and then they have to deal with that as well, and it's a lot that comes along with it.
Definitely.
And then the at least 18-year commitment that you have to feel that comes along with it, and it's a lot. Being honest, it's a lot, and you just begin to realize that if it's your time, then it will be your time, and when it's your time, then it'll be that time, and if that time never comes, then there'll be times for so many other things in your life as well.
Sure.
Yes, absolutely. We definitely haven't lost faith that, it can happen. As a matter of fact, our business is unlimited possibilities. How can we have these unlimited possibilities for everyone else and not for ourselves?
Sure.
So,
Sure.
it happens,
Right.
And having biblical roots, we might just be Abraham and Sarah.
I know that's right.
No.
Woo!
You know what's gonna happen.
And I think people forget, one of the things that I see a lot with couples, people forget that a marriage, and this is something that my dad instilled in us forever, since we were younger, a marriage really has nothing to do with children. Has nothing to do with children. So like you said, you're still here. You're still a husband. Without children, you're still a husband. Without children, you're still a wife. Has nothing to do with the marriage, but I think sometimes people feel like,
because a lot of people get married because of children,
for
the children,
and stay in a marriage for the children.
And we've discovered that's like the absolute wrong reason to do it, because that can make you a horrible person.
Sure.
When otherwise, if you were raising that child separately, you might be better people and a better investment to that child. So, but I think that's the age that people were raised in. So it was a process of untraining that in your mind, like, oh, that's what it's supposed to do. Married with children, like, we realize, getting to the root of it, the marriage contract is the business aspect of the relationship. The relationship is what we developed and built between us. The marriage is the business of that relationship, making sure that it's clean business-wise, so we shouldn't have to even worry about that in our relationship.
Absolutely.
So, and that's just coming to an agreement together as partners. We're partners in life. We're partners in our interests. We're partners in ourselves with each other. And that's what the relationship is. And if we have a child together, we're partners in that too. But ultimately, we're sealing the deal on our partnership in the business of our relationship.
Sure. That's the thing about it too. A good thing with you guys' relationship, because, like you said, some people get married and already have children, and they're married for the children. But then some people get married and they have children, then they lose connection with each other because they're too busy trying to handle the kids. You know what I'm saying? Then you guys' relationship, I ain't gonna say fall apart, but you just...
Yeah, you're distant,
I guess you say distance. Because when you fall apart, falling apart to me sounds destructive. Distance, you can come back. You know what I'm saying? But that's the thing, when you have kids, you have to balance that. You have to make time for the kids.
Yeah, and that was one of the things that was very important in our house growing up. My dad let us know very young, this is my wife. You don't hurt my wife. Me and my wife are having time together. You respect that, And not in a negative sense, but we understood a marriage because it was like, no, this is our marriage. Now, if we include you guys in some of our activities or, whatever's going on, that's fine, but you're not part of this marriage. And a lot of people don't understand that. A lot of people get married to create a family.
Yeah.
And I think, like you said, society gives us these pictures of what it should be. But what if you wanted a family, go create a family instead of getting married? Does that make sense, right? So if you want children, there are ways to get children without a marriage.
Yeah.
But people put the two together and
that is the depiction of society. That's how a family works, so that you have to get married and in order to have children, to have a family. But as we do see now today, that families are an array of different things. You can have a family where it's just a female and her children, and she decided to do the in vitro fertilization.
Sure.
And that's her family. She decided to have her family in that way. I've seen a lot of single fathers.
Sure.
That has 2 or 3 kids that they're raising because the mom wants to be absent from the household, where when we were growing up, it was more so of the father that was absent. So I definitely think that society has a pressure on us for what we have. We create our family. We create we have 2 godchildren that goddaughters that we mention or that we keep around more frequently, that have really helped us to grow into who we are and what we desire to be as parents, what we want to instill and invest in them. But I really wanted to say that we are individuals, and as individuals we mentioned this earlier in the conversation, that we all have a energy that we have, and we can choose to guard it or we can choose to share it. And however we choose to funnel our energy on that particular day, we have to be aware of it at all times. And I think that as being a parent, you have to be aware of that in a marriage, as well as being a father or a mother, to be able to understand that yes, it is important for your child to have a roof over their head, have food on their table and clothes on their backs, but they also need to understand how to be a human being and how to interact with other people and all of these other things. And if they don't get it through a conversation or through interaction, they're going to see it in your actions and whatever you're doing on a day-to-day basis, and that's how they're going to absorb it, and it's going to be normal to them. So that's something that we take into consideration, our intents and the things that we put out into the world.
And the other thing is that, like you just mentioned, with godchildren or nieces, nephews, cousins, there's always a way to give that back, even if you don't have your own children, because unfortunately there are some children who still don't have what you would have to offer. So it's not like it can't be used. Who you are is not going to be used anymore, just because you don't have your own biological children.
And adoption is always an option.
Absolutely.
Fostering kids. There's so many different ways of being a parent, or even just investing into a mentoring program. That energy gets used and expelled in so many other different ways that, like I said, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. It doesn't necessarily mean it's for everybody. And if you believe in a higher purpose, then it's well.
Sure.
No matter what, it's well.
That is right. So. And what do you tell people? Because you see on Facebook or different social media outlets where you have those memes where it's like people are asking, when do you get married? And when you get married, it's like, well, when are you having kids? And I'm sure that is not a foreign question to you guys. Like, hey, when are you having kids?
Hey, you tell us.
I was wondering the same thing, right?
That's it.
In its own time.
Right. And how do you keep yourselves from letting things like that, kind of defeat you or get to you?
It's a growing process. Because of course, especially for me, seeing women that get pregnant and don't want the children, or they're just getting pregnant and it's just easy, at least to me it seems like it's
Sure.
just easy, and it's like, well, why can't that be me?
Mm-hmm.
Why can't we have that, or whatever the case may be. And I got to a point where I did get depressed about it, but I've learned that, like I just said, we have the ability to share and invest in other children. We had a conversation recently that I get everything I want, but it may not come in the package that I wanted in. Like, I may have been expecting red polka dot dressing for something specific, but it came in blue and white stripes.
Gotcha.
So I've gotten everything that I want. Like, for instance, my sister just had twins, and I've always, wanted a 7-twin-year-old. So the twins, like, who would have known that we would have had twins within the family? But I get, everything that I want. So I'm able to share in, in a motherly way, if you will, to other young women or young men. I just did coaching, cheerleading girls for this last football season, and that was an interesting experience for me because I realized I am not a mother. And they were saying, you should be hard on these kids, and I'm like, no, I can't. That's just so sweet. They have their mothers for that. That's not what I'm here for. And so, I have the ability to see how I can share in that and not be depressed about it, or not be down, or feel like, oh, woe is me. Sure. Because I have millions of kids, if you will, because there are tons of people that we go into connection with.
And I think that's a cultural thing, and one of the cultural things that we were raised in, but it's kind of slipping away, that it's a good thing to bring back that old village mentality that these are our kids.
Sure.
It's not just these are my kids because I birthed them. You better not say nothing to my kid.
Sure.
That was a hurt thing. It's getting back to these are our kids. We got to take a hand in raising our kids. Anybody can be mom. Anybody can be dad. Because what's important is raising these human beings up to be able to be good functioning people in society that matter, and they're secure in themselves. And that goes back to maybe it's because we black and African roots, but it takes a village.
It does.
And when you believe that, you get beyond just seeing what comes from your own body as yours, but having a certain level of pride and energy for all of us. And once you do that, you got a whole bunch of children.
I'm telling you.
A whole bunch of them. You need a break. Some of them are grown.
It's so true. It's so true. And like you said, using that village mentality, you can look at that both ways, because there are children who need additional parental figures, but there are parents, right, who don't have biological children, who have so much to offer. So if we put everything in the pot together like we used to, you get the most out of everything. Everybody gets to give what they have to offer, and there's always somebody there to receive it.
Because the fathers would speak as the uncles would speak as the fathers.
That's right.
And the grandfathers would speak as the grandfathers, because grandfathers are grandfathers.
Exactly.
And we have a cultural identity, and we share that wisdom. So if you hear it from one, you hear it from all.
Sure.
And if we're back to that, then everybody is grandmother.
Exactly.
And there's a level of respect. This child won't hurt these people in this community because he now acknowledges them. This could be my grandmother.
Sure.
This could be my grandfather. This could be my uncle. And if we all share in that responsibility, they will. And the world does become a better place. At least our community does.
Absolutely. And like you said, I can think of a couple now. They're both deceased, but who were my grandparents? And my grandparents, biologically, I didn't see either of them married. And kind of, we didn't have those type of relationships with our grandparents. But this particular couple, they lived a few doors from us, and they were a spiritual couple. They were very grounded. They were family oriented. They just loved everybody, and that was Nana and Papa. All I knew all my life, you know. So, like you said, if that's what we have to offer, had not been for them, I feel like I would have never had grandparents. That was my picture of grandparents, but they really just lived up the street from me.
We just went through that with our goddaughter. And she was asking, she was like, what did she say? I don't even remember how the conversation, but she was like, how are you related to my mom? Y'all aren't brother and sister, y'all aren't sister and sister.
What did I miss?
But you're my aunt. All right.
We're family.
That's it. It's like, whatever. I mean, y'all are what y'all are. All right, I'm gonna roll on, and that's how it should be. That
right.
It shouldn't matter that you feel safety amongst the people in your circle, in your community, who are around you, and that's what we want to bring back.
Mm-hmm.
So we get that benefit because we not frustrated at the end of the day because Junior's report card wasn't looking good. Now you got to spend some money on a tutor, and that daycare ain't doing right. You got to check up on that. So we do get the opportunity to have the break from that frustration that y'all feel, and so we can help out. We get to help out
when we want to.
That's it. Just a little bit.
Yeah.
You get to help out.
And then on the flip side of that, married without children, you have all of the other, you know, the cool stuff like we were talking about earlier that can go on. I mean, look, how many married couples, y'all know how it is. Your kids done bust in the room on you, right? You're trying to get a good one in, whether it be a quickie, whether it be late at night, now somebody coughing, somebody sick. You're like, oh God, please.
Somebody done woke up. As soon as you get ready to get right. Woke up.
You do have to take advantage of the time of being able to have more room for intimacy.
Right.
And even within that, you know, just having the ability to enjoy yourselves without any interruptions, and you get to choose whether or not to have that concentrated time.
Sure.
So that is a beautiful benefit of it, and I would recommend anybody that doesn't have kids, like you need that time to connect. Otherwise, you get so caught up in not having kids, like, and wanting the kids, and take the time to be intimate so that it can happen.
That's right.
You get so caught up, oh, it's not happened yet, that you sink into that depression. You don't want to do nothing. How can it happen?
Mm-hmm.
What environment are you even building that you would want a child to come into? Would you want to come into the environment of somebody that's been so upset that it hasn't happened? Like, that goes into the recipe.
Sure.
I feel like. So I'm glad that we have the opportunity to really choose and take time to build an environment that we would want kids to come into.
Sure.
Because I feel like that's something that a lot of our people don't get the option to explore. It's just, oh my God, I'm pregnant.
Right. And we just got to make it work.
I wasn't even looking for this to happen. Like, and now it's done happen. Like, if it's gone, I mean, there's other options. And if we ever do, we choose the environment that child comes into, and what we get to sow into them and what we get to invest. And we've had time to work on ourselves as individuals to be not, so that when that time comes to invest all those heartaches and headaches that we've been going through, being hard-headed and selfish, we get to invest wholeheartedly when that child comes, because we've had time to really mature in some things.
Sure. And going back to that big word that we love, intimacy, right? Because a lot of people don't understand, you know, how, like you said, creating that environment. And children are a blessing. Don't get me wrong. Children are a blessing. We have 5 of them between the 2 of us. But at the same time, when you talk about intimacy, if you think about it, any couple, when you get together, who's going to bring their kids on a date? Who's like, oh, you coming through? Because my kids are sitting right here in the living room. If they say they coming, you like, all right, let me get them in the tub, put them in bed, but that way they be asleep. You know what I'm saying? Because you need to create that intimacy. If I want to hold my husband's hand, I don't always need the little one, like, and me too. You know, with the grandbabies now, you know, you give a hug and the kids, and me too. You like you said, I was just trying to create. We wanted to play Uno alone. That's it. We just us two.
And some people lose track of even how to do that. You know, thankfully we've had enough time to be well trained in it.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
You know, we can't lose track of that, and it's important.
Because then you have children and no marriage if you don't.
Mm-hmm.
Which defeats the purpose, right? Because you got married to have children. Now you got children, your marriage is done.
And you're unhappy. Like,
She just went and got the kids from the beginning.
Yes.
You know?
She just went down to the food line, guy.
and that's a big part of maturity, is that we get to explore how to be happy, how to be happy within ourselves, how to be happy with each other. And then, when you got that, really any door is open.
Sure.
And that partnership does manifest babies. Like you said, we have our businesses, and we've had our businesses for the length of time that we've been together, and they're just now maturing like babies, to the point that we really get to start doing some of the fun things with them.
Nice.
So, that energy is still around us, no matter what. There's areas that we get to explore the childlike energy of life
Sure.
by choice on our own. So, and that creates wonderful intimacy. So parents with children, allow them babies to create some intimacy within y'all. Like, there's some intimate moments that y'all get to experience. And we sometimes just looking at that like, wow, you get to read a book with your child. Like, that's big. And, we take time to do that. And like, we visited my brother and saw one of my nephews, and I just got to read a book with him. That was big for me. Like, hey, I'm good in the world. My day is made. I got to read a book with a kid that I'm blood related to. And a parent sometimes like, dang, I ain't read a book with my kid.
Right, because it doesn't even always have to be bad. Maybe they were at work, and then they have 3 kids, 3 different ages, and then the husband and the wife working 2 different shifts. So not doing anything wrong. You need that village. Need that village.
That's it. And having that village also frees up time for you to be that parent as well. Because if somebody in that village like us comes over and cooks a meal, and you ain't got to cook tonight, now you have that time to spend with your child.
Absolutely.
So, there's all sorts of ways that it's beneficial to the world. And, we take charge in that. We get charged up off that, and having the ability to be able to do that. And that's something that we found important. Find purpose.
Sure.
If that's, the ability to choose.
Don't leave that part out. Finding purpose. That is so important. Was there anything else? We're getting ready to wrap up this one. Of course, we'll be back every week, but we just want to make sure that people are listening and understanding you are not out here alone. There are so many different topics with marriage, so many things that we go through in marriages, and if we don't expose them, a lot of times I believe people feel like they're by themselves. But a platform like this, people realize and understand, and I don't know if you guys want to give your social media information, if people are in those situations and just wanted to kind of shoot a, hey, this is what I'm going through.
Here's the man.
It's up to you. You don't have to, but I just pointed that out because, again, people feel like they're alone in situations, and you're not alone, and it doesn't always mean it's the worst situation, because that's the way society has made it seem.
Absolutely. Both of us are healing arts practitioners. When I say that, we both are level 3 Reiki masters. That's one of the healing arts, using energetic healing. We have a religious background as well as very deeply invested in our spiritual cultural background. And just in doing that, we have an opportunity to be able to present our gifts to other people through social media, through the things that we do, events that we do. We do cooking events.
Yes, we do.
Catering. Yeah, we do a lot of cooking.
Talismans.
Yeah, bracelets, energy investments. We do a lot of teaching, a lot of seminars. So you can look us up on social media. My IG is bear_handed_chef. Your IG.
Shafay Sims.
And our Facebook page, our catering company is Unlimited Possibilities. And then our wellness page is Sims Holistic Wellness and Arts. So there's multiple ways to find us. Just look us up. Jay.
Shafay.
Sims.
That's them.
Anything you want to leave for the peoples?
Thank you for coming out. God bless you. Good night.
Go ahead.
Anyway, what'd you say, Shafay?
I said we do it a lot.
Is that right, Jay?
Of course.
That's all that matters, right? That's all that matters.
Everybody has a different a lot.
That's it. Everybody
Yes.
has a different life.
Yes.
And we all know how much that adds to intimacy and relationship. I mean, we're laughing and we're talking, but I honestly think that's one of the biggest things missing out of relationships now. One, and again, we're not blaming our little boo-boos. We love them. But once you have children, I think Gregory mentioned a few minutes ago, you make them the center of attention. So now you lose the intimacy. Once the intimacy is gone, the sex is gone.
Yeah. The sexual intimacy is something that when you're young and immature and you take it for granted, you think it's just a physical thing.
Right.
But when you've been married and you've been married for a while, you know, you see all the ups and downs of that person's bodies. You know their smells. You know their stinks.
Exactly.
You know all the intimate secrets of that person. So you have to learn how to be able to have that desire for one another beyond all the other stuff that's going on. You have to be able to find that just in waking up and looking at them. You have to be able to find that when they walk across the room to go to the bathroom. You have to be able to see that. And some of that is taking that time to have connection. And when you have kids and sometimes you get into that connection and then, oh, I gotta throw up, and you know, it's you called away from it, so you don't get to complete
Right.
that level of intimacy. And yeah, we get a lot of time to just have that level of one-on-one connection for the purpose and the plan of our lives, whether we're investing in that sexually, investing in that through our verbal intercourse. Like we have all the opportunities to explore all the different pleasurable levels of a relationship that a lot of times you only, if you have kids, you only get to explore that through the eyes of that child.
Sure.
And they have a very immature perspective for the palate that you have of all your freaky ways.
Exactly.
That got that baby. So
exactly. Oh,
y'all
so
gotta
you can't say,
divert
right?
that energy. And if you
Or kick those kids out for a few minutes. Let's learn from these guys. Kick those kids out. It is okay. Get a babysitter. Find somebody else in your village, because touching, rubbing, saying freaky stuff, all of those things are necessary.
Absolutely.
My sister, I love the way she raises her kids. They are in the bed by 7 o'clock. They've done their homework. They've done, had their meal, and they've, interacted at the table during, dinner. So they've been able to, impart into them, and they're in the bed by 7 o'clock. So that way the grown-ups can do whatever it is that they choose, that they want to do until they fall asleep. Because of course you're tired after working 8 hours, 10 hours, however many hours. So, their hour or whatever of intimacy time. So
Yeah.
And
I
it's
think that's
easy. It's easy for us to say, because we don't have kids. A parent with kids will look at us. It's easy for you to say that. But not having kids, you are aware of a lot of that free time. And a lot of that free time is spent feeling like, oh, I should be doing something. We ain't got kids. I should be doing something. We ain't got no kids.
Yeah.
Why am I just laying here doing that? You have to negotiate how to appreciate that time and still appreciate each other in that time, because everybody gets busy. Everybody feels their life. Just because you have kids don't mean you're not going to feel your life.
That's right.
If you're single, you might feel your life. If you're a couple, you will feel your life and find things to be in it that will keep you from having that intimate time. And you have, no matter where you're at in your relationship, make time for it.
Absolutely.
Jay, I'll tell you what I say. Sometimes when we might be upstairs chilling, weekend, Sunday, like, we ain't got nothing to do. I said, it's just us. We need to just enjoy each other. I'm like, come on, let's do it.
First thing he said,
ain't no need to be bored.
Get naked. That's the first thing he said.
No, we about to
Whether we
enjoy
watch
each other.
TV,
Ain't no
play
reason
the
why we
game,
should be bored.
clean
sitting
up,
right
cook
with
dinner,
each other.
get
being
naked.
bored.
Like, it's a form of communication.
Yes.
And you can't ignore that. A lot of couples get to the place where ignoring that, because sadly we begin to think that our sex is something that we're giving out like tickets to a ride to.
Yeah, you're right.
You gotta pay for this investment.
Yeah.
Like, no,
Right.
this is a benefit. This is
It
healthy
comes
to
with,
us
yeah.
as a
in-house.
relationship.
It's
Like,
bills.
In-house.
this is how we build the connection between us that gets things done. This is rocket fuel. You know what I'm saying? Because when you have one of those good sessions, you be like, man, I gotta go out and be successful.
Sure.
This right here deserves some success.
Go to work like they was in the bed with you. I did that.
Right.
Like, this was, hey,
I walk out, I was like, what I gotta worry about? Lions, tigers, bears, do you know what I just did? You know what just happened
That's
in
where
there?
they come from when you go to work and be like, you must have got something.
Right. And I'm not gonna, you know, maybe it is a masculine thing. We're in tune to that because we've had that conversation. That's one of the areas we are allowed to feel.
Sure.
You're allowed to feel like a man in that area. So a lot of times, sisters, when we not getting that, we get handicapped.
Right.
Because we're like, as single men, we're used to figuring out how to get rid of that energy on our own, and then going out and doing everything that was first and foremost in our minds about like that. Because we wake up like that. We wake up like ready. It's a thing. Look it up. Google it.
And believe it, I saw a Facebook, we're in a marriage group on Facebook, and somebody posted, if your husband wakes you up at 2 o'clock in the morning, would you give him sex?
Yeah.
Ma'am, and why not? Why wouldn't you? Why are you asking that question?
Like, do you want him to
What's happening?
Do you want him to look somewhere else?
What is happening? Why do you need to know?
Right.
First of all, y'all should already be naked. It shouldn't have been a conversation. He could have just rolled over. You could be asleep by now. Instead of putting that on Facebook, you know?
That shouldn't be, and understanding that from the male's perspective, that guys, that shouldn't be just taking it. You're not entitled to it. But when you have the time and invest that energy to build that level of intimacy with somebody, that's one of those things that you understand between each other. Oh, that goes without saying. Mm-hmm. Don't take it for granted. Get it to the place where it goes without saying.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. And then, like you were talking about earlier, there are those things that's going to help build up to the sexual piece of the intimacy. Y'all do a lot of cooking together, you know, little things that you know, little touches, little comments, little smell things.
We cook together, we dance, we laugh, we
create music.
We do a lot of stuff together. And some of it's by choice and some of it's by proximity, and some of it is by blessing, you know.
Right.
Like, and we really just had to learn a lot about each other, and we really had time to really learn those lessons. Like, there would have been a period of time that if you asked me, I'd be like, well, she's always talking negative to me. But she understands me so intimately that she knows some of the things I pay attention to, and because she does know how to see them the way that I see them, hearing it from her, what I say on the inside sounds like negativity, but it allows me to see how I beat myself up. It's like, and sometimes you have to, like she said, we make music together. I'll make some music and I'll go over, oh, this need to be changed, oh, this need to be changed. She'd be like, yeah, it's like that. Like, well, dang, you didn't know you said that. But then it's like, okay, well, I gotta accept it's a whole thing and it's like that, and it's okay. So having that intimacy also allows us to have the perspective to be able to move on for things, and having the sexual intimacy allows a level of intimacy between us to be more vulnerable about other things.
Sure.
Because as men, we need that safe space to be vulnerable. You've heard it for women, and I think men are conditioned to get it. We're conditioned to pay attention to the needs of our wives, but we're not conditioned to pay attention to what we need feeling wise.
Sure. And that's the uncomfortable part about intimacy. One of the things you just mentioned about her knowing you so deep, that she's able to check you on those things that normally you would only be able to check yourself. Same thing here. You know, I can say something to him or he can say something to me that nobody else would have, but that's a part of intimacy because you know, you understand. Make me get it right so I can grow, you know, because that, where else are you going to get that from?
And we have to negotiate, like, we're taught like we got to change our partner and change things in our partner, and the reality of it is we got to change stuff in ourselves to complement our partners, because whoever she is, however she put things together, when I saw her, I liked the way that she saw things and got it together.
Right.
I was attracted to that. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what the production behind the show was. I just know that I liked what I saw.
Sure.
And in being with her, the more that I liked what I saw, the more I wanted it as a part of my perspective of life. And then when we partnered it, I cannot despise that she has her own perspective, and her perspective is something that I was attracted to. and when she's giving me what's necessary in her, you don't have to worry about what you're doing right as much as you have to worry about the things that are wrong, because the things that are right are going to be right until they're wrong.
Absolutely.
So we can talk about the things that are wrong in a healthy way so that it can be on the side of what's right. And of course, as a goal, it's like a Mario game to get what's always right. And every time we run, we go flying through the board, hit all the right points, and then jump at the top of the flag, jump over that joint, and it shoots rockets into the sky. You know what I'm saying? Like, we don't have that desperation that somebody with kids where you have to have that.
Right.
And we have the ability to be able to find it with each other first, and if a child comes out of that, well, call that child blessed.
There you go.
So we're good.
And that's the way it should be. A child should come out of that. You shouldn't build it after you have kids, you know. That child should come out of that intimacy.
If you do, then you do, and you got to figure that out on the run.
Yeah, you do.
But
one of those things you got to repair, though, like you talked about. You know, when if you have the opportunity to prepare for it, it makes it easy.
With education, you can do it on purpose.
Yeah.
And that's something that we even work couples that don't have kids. Start figuring out how to do it on purpose. And when we say do it on purpose, the body responds. It sounds crazy, but doing it on purpose is aside from doing it for the intimacy. The doing it on purpose is purposely to build something in our relationship. And you can even do it on purpose in having kids. We map it. Might sound silly to somebody else, but we mapped it out, the date, because we studied different things. Like, we're into astrology and zodiac signs. We found out the zodiac sign that is most agreeable between, I'm a Leo and she's a Gemini. We found out the zodiac sign that's most agreeable during that time. We said, okay, well, we need to have a baby during this frame of time. If we're going to have one, let's try and do it during this frame of time, because if you do it in this month, then the baby's due date should be in this time.
Right.
Okay, well, what day works the best to give us the cushion? So we found that on purpose. Then we before that, we had thought about names, what we would name those children. So when we do it, we got a lot of purpose that we're investing into that process. So when it happens, it's going to happen on purpose. Yeah. And we'll know that we won't be able to be like, oh, was that a mistake? Was that an accident? Oh, we didn't expect this. Even if it's unexpected when it happens, we're ready to move.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? Let's not get caught off guard. And in that means scheduling our lives in a way, ordering our lives in a way that we can be proud when it happens of who we are and where we're at. And that's important to do for couples that don't have kids in the meantime. So have lots of sex so you can build that conversation.
Have lots of sex.
And lots of sex.
Consensual. Loving. Passionate, even loving and passionate in your freaky kinky stuff that y'all do.
Listen, get it in.
It's all out of love.
It's all out of love.
Even when you got a whooping. Doing it because I love you.
The marriage bed is sacred.
Listen,
between y'all, what y'all do in that bed is sacred.
That's right.
Between y'all.
And for those of you who are struggling with sex right now, I will give y'all this little tidbit. So with one of my marriage groups, what I did was a 21-day challenge. And I just asked those couples to intentionally have sex every single day for 21 days. Why? Because it's like, okay, we're not doing that right now. I don't have time. I got the kids. But if you sit down and be like, okay, just like cooking dinner or getting the kids to school, those are on your agenda. If you have to put that on your agenda until it becomes natural, that's the only thing that's going to make it become natural. And I just had those couples do that. And we had some success stories, some not so successful stories, but I just put that out there because if there are any couples who are struggling with sex at this point, try there. Because the more you have sex, the more you will want to have sex. So you got to start somewhere. Just say, hey, listen, I know we haven't been, but come here. Let's do this. And then tomorrow maybe y'all can kiss
You
first.
sound like a mom.
Maybe
I know you're not happy, but come on over here and pull your pants down.
And
have to do this.
Being explosive, I don't know, that's not a word, but we had a conversation and it was like, you know, we were going through a rough time. It was like, well, all right, you got upset when I tried to talk to you about this at this time. You got upset when I tried to talk to you about it this time. I said, well, when's the best time to talk to you? She said, after we have sex. I'm sitting there like, okay. So sometimes you may not feel like I'm in the sexual mood, But by going ahead and breaking that ice and having that physical, intimate conversation with somebody that you trust and you're partnered with for the furtherment of your life and your benefits, then afterwards, if that conversation opens you up to that conversation,
yeah,
obviously it's healthy.
it's healthy.
It can be healthy. Any aspect of it can be healthy. So don't hold it back because you're mad. Do it because you're mad and you want to work it out.
Oh, that's right. And get up from there on a
Especially.
new wave.
Oh, it's a different energy. And don't neglect yourself in it.
Mm-hmm.
Take
That's
time
right.
for each other.
That's
Don't
right.
neglect each other. You
That's
got to be
right.
sharing in the pleasure of the moment so that when you have that after conversation, it can be a pleasurable
Everybody's-
experience as well, because you don't have to argue. There's always other ways to work out that stress so you can take the stress out of that situation. So.
Well, thank you guys for listening.
Yeah.
Hope you'll join us next week.
We get ready to go have sex.
Not together.
Y'all better do what y'all do. They not home yet.